Can you feel my heart? Oh, not even working. What have you done to me? Da-da-da-da.
Lord Pounceloth is now live. Streaming MORDHAU, okay.
All right. We upload. Let's watch. Your discretion is advised.
Are you ready, kids?
Aye, aye,
I
Captain.
can't hear you.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Lives in a pineapple car.
Yeah.
I like that.
I should have finished high school.
Hey guys, I'm your host, Juan, and today we're
Juan.
diving into Crossed, Grave New World, aka Volume 9, aka issues 44 to 49 of the Badlands Anthology series. This arc was written by Daniel Way, primarily known for his
Way.
work on both the Deadpool comic as well as the video game. It also features art done by Emiliano Ordinola. Alright, look guys, I'm gonna keep it real with you. This is some major doo-doo, alright? Like, from the beginning, we start from level 100, so, be warned. But yeah,
I'm willing to
we
show
have
your
sort of a
back,
vaunted
Bane
tradition
style, then
on this
fuck you.
channel of covering both lost gems
everybody.
and truly appallingly bad horror material. And this cross story will certainly give the whole shrink slash anti-cross thing a run for its money. However, before we begin, make sure to like this video
bro.
as well as subscribe to the channel
it.
so you can stay in the loop with all the latest videos. Also, consider signing up for my membership program here on YouTube for early previews of the next stuff. But yeah, enough with all of that. Let's jump right in. Our story opens on a warehouse in the U.S.
I don't think
Navy's
I've
Little
seen this
Creek amphibious
house.
base. It's been 3 months since the Crossed outbreak began.
Pretty fresh.
3 months since a virus robbed the afflicted of their self-control and rendered them all into
Now
merciless
they're making a movie
psychopaths.
out of this.
Don't believe me? Take a look. We see a pair of crossed sailors sodomizing their commander with a handgun. The man slumps over in trauma, and the crossed howl in laughter. Blood gushes from his wounds, and the cross get jealous. They want to feel what it's like to be torn up back there.
What?
A stone-faced man watches the hedonist monsters destroy themselves and bleed out. To him, the ghastly scene is actually a good omen. These freaks will take care of themselves if you wait long enough, which means all the survivors have to do is come together and purge out anything that resembles the crossed sickness from their own hearts and minds. The
Yeah, I don't
soul
think I've read.
must be pure, or else it won't be at all. We jump to 1 year later, off the coast of North Carolina. A fisherman named Frank throws up his hands, shouting at the men who just forced their way
Lucky.
onto his boat. It's that same intense-looking man as before, now sporting facial
Means it's
hair
time to make a
and all
choice.
decked out in navy camo. He goes by the name Captain Barnes, and he holds up the fisherman at gunpoint alongside another younger man. This fisherman is a rather vulgar old sea dog who barks out swear words every other second. Frankly, the man looks like he has crabs.
Right and bits.
And I ain't talking about from the sea. So, yeah, he's told to shut the fuck up and answer their questions in clean, concise
No,
American
chill.
English.
Chill.
They want to know if, number one, if he's a good fisherman, and number two, if he's got crew on board. Frank boasts that he's the best damn fisherman this side of Cape Hatteras, and anyone who says otherwise can kiss his ass. But when he's asked again about others on the ship, Frank gets uncharacteristically quiet, and he mutters something about a woman chained up in his bedroom. The two Navy men exchange glances, and the younger one climbs into the bunk. Frank starts spitting everywhere, crying that they're trying to take his woman from him. The captain explains that no,
All right.
his
wait one
colleague
second.
there,
There's
named
no mic.
Elon El Sayed, is a doctor who's merely going over there to
You
check
hear
her
this?
out.
Yeah, you hear this.
But that immediately goes south. There is a cry of alarm from the bedroom, and they all rush over there. And what they discover... Well, what they discover... Jesus fucking Christ. God fucking damn it. It's a pregnant lady named Amanda, chained to the wall, covered in and surrounded by excrement. I'm not describing any more than that. Okay, so they start beating the shit out of the fishermen, but then the woman hysterically shrieks at them to stop.
Well, they got
Apparently he chained her up so she wouldn't take her own life as well as the baby's. Right. So the captain informs Frank and Amanda that they're coming with them. We jump over to the Navy guy's boat in question. It's a patrol vessel, full of inhabitants, restlessly waiting for their men to return. An older couple, named
Yes.
Jerry and Susan, are currently arguing about the mental condition of their captain. Susan thinks her husband is a pushover who tied her fate, as well as their sons, to a man whose judgment is clearly impaired. But before Jerry can respond, two other men waltz over, loudly asking what they're talking about. The guy on the left with the Dwayne The Rock Johnson tattoos is Chemo, and the pompous little shit on the right is Peter. Anyway, they press Susan that surely she wasn't trying to incite a mutiny, right? The woman panics, but she gets bailed
What
out
is-
when
what is
another
that?
lady in
What
camo
is-
hollers across the deck that the captain is back. Which segues into a more formal introduction of the crew to Frank and Amanda, meaning we get more background information on the cast. In short, before the apocalypse, Jerry worked for Lockheed Martin. Kino is from Hawaii, and he was in the Navy. Also, he speaks in a Jamaican accent for some reason. Whatever. And then there's
And he
Peter.
painted, by the way.
His family ran
His
one of the
name.
largest construction companies in the country. But Petey here personally was more of a nepotism case. And then, of course, we already met Dr. Elon. So the final crew member is actually the captain's second in command. A strict, no-nonsense woman named Ella. Right, so that's them. Now the
Got
spotlight
him.
is on Frank and Amanda to introduce themselves.
Damn.
Amanda cheerfully smiles and
What a name.
announces that she's Frank's daughter. Everyone immediately susses out the implication, and they look at the fisherman in visceral disgust, and he tells them all to go fuck themselves. Ella and Chemo lunge at him, but the captain stops them. He whispers something to Ella and leaves to go pilot the ship. The woman raises her voice and sharply orders Amanda to report to medical at once. And as for Frank,
No.
there will be no more profanity of any kind on this vessel. Ella yells, asking if the orders are clear, and the rest of the crew
Aye,
immediately
aye,
straightens
Captain.
up and screams out, "Aye, aye, ma'am." Frank's like, "What the fuck?" And he immediately gets put into a standing arm lock by Chemo. Ella warns the fisherman that this is his final warning. The next time he steps out of line, she'll kick his teeth in. We next follow Ella over to the sick bay, where Dr. Elon has put Amanda under sedation in order to examine her vitals and rehydrate her. Ella bluntly asks if she was raped, but the doctor assures her that there's no visible evidence of trauma. Ella's not convinced, though. She confidently asserts that it means merely that Frank hasn't done it lately. The doctor sighs. He tells her that his job is to assess whether or not Amanda has the virus, and then whether or not the pregnancy is viable, even if it's the result of inbreeding. Now, if Ella has a problem with that, she should take it up with Captain Barnes, who, remember, let them on the boat in the first
Getting
place.
fucking ballisted and
Ella gets in the doctor's face, hissing
While
at him
Rel appears
that
captured
she needs
using
to know
Pope
with
Caps,
absolute
wings revealed in
certainty
90s.
whether or not it's safe to
two
have
boys.
Frank around the children on board. That's right. Horsing around and causing a general ruckus in a room together is a group of 4 bright-eyed children.
Appreciate it.
They argue and fight over petty nonsense and threaten to tattle on each other and whatnot. I'm not exactly sure where these kids came from.
Nope.
It gets more confusing the more you think about it. Also, their names are all fucked up and inconsistent, but I'm not going to get into that.
All
Okay,
right.
I'll just say that from left to right, we have Evelyn, Kevon, Shauna, and Polly. Oh yeah,
Probably
and the
all gonna
captain
die.
keeps them locked up in a detention cell all day. In fact, they're terrified of the man. They know what he did to a couple named Melissa and Leo who were caught having sex. They were
Got him.
kicked off the boat and cast aside like garbage. Officially, they were sent on a special mission, but that almost certainly means death. Recalling all of this, the children slump their shoulders and take long, sad stares at the ground. 6 months pass, and the ship rocks among choppy waters in the far north. The deck is covered in ice,
Rella
and
escaped.
Amanda
No one
about
caught it.
slides off.
Gotcha, don't worry. I
Peter catches her, though. Or at least I think that's Peter. He has the wrong hair color, but it only makes sense if it's him. Anyway, Amanda
Got
asks
him.
why the captain doesn't take them south, where it's warm. And Peter replies that he actually is, come springtime. And not only that, apparently Captain Barnes is looking for a place to permanently
Can't take the
settle
phone call.
on land. So far, the captain has only told this information to Peter and
Take it
Frank
now, right
because
now.
he has a special job for them to accomplish before they reach their destination. Upon hearing reference to her
Fine,
father,
you.
Amanda hangs her head. He hasn't spoken to or acknowledged her since the birth of their baby. And, I guess we see why. To put it in terms Frank might appreciate, the kid's basically a drooling blobfish. Oh, and by this point, Frank's rotting mouth is now missing several teeth.
Got it.
I only mention it because from this point on, you need fucking Duolingo to figure out what this guy's saying. So that's pretty epic. We next cut to 2 random Latino kids running around an island under
what
the
the
loving eye of their poppy.
Yes,
They're brothers named Ernesto and Domingo, and they fight over mundane shit like mangoes. But that's not the main point. The main point is to introduce the location they're living at. Fort Jefferson, the isolated island fortress nestled in Dry Tortugas National Park. And that's how we conclude the... Wait, this was only the first fucking issue? Meanwhile, as all that is going on, in New Orleans, a pair of survivors stumble their way through the city. They stand in amazement, staring at a capsized dredge boat on the shore. This
Yeah, I don't know if you can
is
use it.
Melissa and Leo, that same couple who got exiled from Captain Barnes' boat. I guess it turns out he really did send them on a mission, but as Leo points out, it was one that was clearly meant to be impossible for them to fulfill. His specific instructions were that if they found a large boat full of topsoil, then they could come back and be forgiven. Melissa isn't listening, though. The many months in the wilderness, struggling to survive, has given her a lot to think about. And she concludes that Captain Barnes was right about them. They were dirty and impure. Leo asks if she's out of her fucking mind. The captain was probably just jealous and wanted her for himself. Leo turns his back to wipe away the frustrated tears.
Right now.
But then his eyes go wide, and his mouth forms around a scream that never quite comes out. Melissa just buried a hatchet into his skull. Some people just ain't no good. We return now to the boat, where Captain Barnes is once again reiterating his doctrines to the others in the mess hall. He preaches that men are less trustworthy than the crossed. The infected are all surface level and predictable. They don't hide what they are.
I don't think so, mate.
They aren't ashamed of it. But man, he lies. He cheats. He debases himself. Women must, of course, be protected, but there will be no sexual relations of any kind. And that includes husband and wife, as in the case of Jerry and Susan. Captain Barnes continues, reaching a crescendo in his speech. In a high tone, he declares that they're going to create a new world, cleansed of the degeneracy that marked the old. The crossed were born from man's evil, so the new order will sterilize the soul like a chemical disinfectant. And if they follow the captain like a shepherd, he will herald them to a new age, and they will flourish in perpetual peace. Everyone looks down pensively, all except Amanda, who stares at Barnes with shimmering eyes and boundless energy. And afterwards, Susan confronts her about this. When they're alone, she bluntly reminds the girl that Barnes is not a prophet. He has no divine insight, and what he says is not law.
I'm sorry, I had to say
Amanda stubbornly resists, that the man never presumed to have said as much. But Susan snaps at her to quit being a fool. Barnes is not even a real captain. He had never attained that rank in the Navy. And get this, he didn't even serve on a boat. He was a brig warden. That's a military prison. He spent his entire career keeping people locked up and controlled. And catch this, Chemo was one of his prisoners. Amanda looks at her dumbfounded. But then Dr. Elon walks into the room. He reminds Susan that he too was one of the prisoners. But all of that was in days long gone by, before they even knew what good and evil really were.
You see that 360
Susan
block?
scoffs and angrily walks away. And that was that. Believe it or not, we fast forward a fucking year and a half. That's right. The patrol boat now sails along the river east of New Orleans. Captain Barnes and Ella are patiently waiting for the radio report of Peter and Frank, who are now off on their nebulous mission. No word, though, and Ella expresses her lack of faith or trust in Frank. But the captain doesn't remember asking for her opinion. Is not his own faith enough for her? Yeah, great. Anyway, returning to Fort Jefferson, we find
Oi,
Ernesto
Frank,
and
doing,
Domingo getting disciplined by their father. The boys were cooking some food, but as their dad chides them, it's not a windy night, meaning any lurking monster could theoretically see the smoke and find them. He tells his kids to get on their knees and pray. He's a very religious man, you see. No other punishment is necessary but the judgment of the Lord in his book. And look, they're still standing. They haven't been smote. God is good and all is well.
Shit, you got me
It's
good.
uncertain if he protected anyone else and
Yes,
allowed them
what
to
answer?
survive the
Wait,
apocalypse
they're 1.5
like they
years
did.
older now.
But really, do they need anyone else when they have each other? Meanwhile, in New Orleans, Frank and Peter are
That
currently
means,
hanging out, drinking in an abandoned bar. A dead crossed woman lies across a table, and it frustrates Peter. It reminds him how badly he wants to get laid. Not that Frank would know anything about
Shit.
that. I mean, look at this fucking guy. He looks like he would eat a McDouble out of a porta potty. Ain't no woman on earth ever touching his pitiful ass. At least not consensually. In a sudden movement, Frank strikes Peter hard across the face. The kid spits out blood and calls Frank a dumb motherfucker. But the fisherman corrects him. Actually, he's a daughter fucker.
What the
Yeah,
fuck?
we're doing high comedy here, folks.
Oh, fuck.
We got fucking Private Joker on deck.
Say that.
Anyway, Peter points his gun at him, and Frank dares him to pull the trigger. Of course, if he does, the cross tramping around the city will hear them and come a-running. But hey, what the hell, right? So, needless to say, Peter swallows his pride, and the standoff ends there. In fact, so does this entire sequence. And no, literally none of this holds any significance to anything that occurs later on, by the way. I really think it was all just to make that one joke. As it were, back on the ship, Captain Barnes lays out his maps in front of the others. It's about time to bring everyone up to speed. He surprises them by revealing that Melissa is still alive, and she managed to make contact with him about 4 months ago via radio.
Wink.
She spoke of the dredge boat she found and its tipped over condition, and that's why the captain called them all in here. They're gonna need to conduct an operation through the city in order to prop it up and pull it free. Susan slams her hands on the table. She accuses the captain of being out of his mind and trying to get them all killed. The captain looks at her coldly and forcefully states that this isn't some spur-of-the-moment decision. It's all been meticulously planned. Peter will use his demolition knowledge to set off a series of distractions, while simultaneously, Frank will link up with Melissa, board the dredge, and sail it out once it's free. But Susan still doesn't quite get it.
I want to listen to that later, so I'm gonna watch some football because I betted on Germany today. Gotta watch that. Oh, screw it. I'm back like